You have no power here.
You think they have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, no chance in hell. Good night.
Click, click, boom. Remember that song? Remember that golden oldie? Well, enough of that jibber jabber. Let's talk Star Wars CCG. Most fun objectives. Season 2, Episode 9. We're not talking about the best objectives. We all know what the best objectives are. Hunt down and destroy the Jedi. Raltier operations. Hidden base. You have your bring him before me, and you have the light side version, save him you can, and then you have the two worst offenders, watch your step, which is so good. I don't even think they read the card before they made that objective, and then the other one, which is almost as good, Agents of the Black Sun. We're not talking about that garbage. We're talking about the most fun objectives to play, the most thematic objectives. And guess what? Comment below. We're giving away a starter deck. That's right. We only have a few more starter decks to go. Comment below your favorite objectives, your favorite strategies to pull off with objectives, maybe some weird things you've done with objectives that don't seem that intuitive, but you've pulled it off. I want to hear it. We all want to hear it. Reading the comments is so fun. Enter to win a starter deck, and let's get on to that top 10 list. Number 10 on the list of most fun, most enjoyable objectives. This deal is getting worse all the time. I had to include this. This is an enhanced Cloud City objective. Really fun. Gave some more utility to Dark Deal and Cloud City Occupation, which kind of were really, really hard to pull off because you have to pull out locations. And what the objective really does is it gets you to pull out Cloud City locations. And what's great about this is the starting, I really like. Deploy one Cloud City Battleground. Right off the bat, bam, you have to start with a Battleground. This is a fighting deck. May deploy secret plans are all wrapped up. Great, now you can even have a bounty hunter theme if you want for this deck. So if you have secret plans all wrapped up, and then you start with prepared defenses, you could have 5 starting effects, which is massive. And then you have this, you're already starting out with half your deck on the board before the game even starts. It's really hard to flip because you have to have Dark Deal on the table, which means you have to control 3 Bespin locations, and then you have to have the Bespin system occupied and Bespin Cloud City occupied, and then you get to flip it. But once you flip it, pray I don't alter it any further because you're going to be draining for a lot. Say if you have Dark Deal out and Cloud City Occupation, they could be losing 15, 20 force a turn is not even unrealistic. The game is over instantly unless they have force drain modifier cancelers or some kind of way to cancel your drain, or they got to come fight you because this deck can drain you to death. When this is flipped, you can't cancel Dark Deal with Surreptitious Glance, which is a pretty powerful card. Opponent loses 8 force if you play all too easy, which is the Luke freezing. If you just hit somebody with a lightsaber at the carbon chamber, you can make them frozen, etc. Your Bespin locations may not be modified by opponent, which is great. They can still cancel them and cancel modifiers, but they just can't modify them, like make them -1 or something like that. So they can be, if you're doing Jedi training and they cancel all modifiers, yes, you're going to lose the pluses on Dark Deal, but you won't lose the extra force loss from the Cloud City Occupation. Imperial Alien pairs. Total Battle Destiny is +2 or +4 if an Ugnaught. So you can make an Ugnaught deck. You could make a bounty hunting deck. Super cool. Love the art on this card. That's why it gets number 10. Just a great card. Just a great card. Boy, I could talk about these objectives for longer, but I won't because they are fun. Number 9. This is cool. Endor Operations. I don't like it as much as the light side objective, but it's still a super cool objective in my opinion. It's similar to The Deal Is Getting Worse All the Time. This is from the Endor set. It's the only objective in the set. Basically, it's a deploy the Endor system, deploy the bunker, deploy the landing platform. All these are battleground locations. Bunkers 2 for 2, landing platforms 1 for 1, Endor systems 2 for 2. So huge force generation. And Ominous Rumors and Established Secret Base are very similar to Dark Deal. And so you're going to be draining huge on the land, and you're going to be draining huge in the space. But that's the problem with these decks. Controlling both space and ground is a bit of a task. So you flip this card if Ominous Rumors and Established Secret Base are both on table, which means you have to control the Endor system and Endor locations. But once you control them, bam, you flip this over, your ATSTs or where your Biker Scouts are, force drains may not be modified or canceled. So this is a little better than the Dark Deal objective because they can't be canceled by opponent. That means they can't cancel it with, say, Hidden Base or a control or something like that, except if they react. Note, an undercover spy is not canceling a force drain. So just so you're aware of that. Opponent draws no more than 1 destiny each battle. That is the best part about this stupid objective is opponent draws no more than 1 destiny anywhere. Not just on Endor, anywhere you fight. No more Han with heavy blaster pistol. No more Leia with little blaster pistol. No more everybody's adding a destiny on the light side. Just 1 destiny each battle for them. ATSTs are immune to less than 3 attrition. Hell, they should have made it 6. During each of your draw phases, retrieve 1 Biker Scout. Super cool to pull off. It's kind of a hard objective to pull off, but once you pull it off, it can really be fun, and it's worth giving a try if you've never tried this. When you pull it off, it's fun. You can go the ATST route, or you can go the Biker Scout route. Just a cool, super cool theme. Number 8. Masasi Base Operations. I really like this. Obviously, I like all these objectives. I'm in love with them. Masasi Base Operations. Deploy on Yavin 4 system. Deploy Yavin 4 system and Docking Bay. Again, 2 fighting locations. For remainder of game, you may not play Revolution or Force Drain at Yavin 4 sites. I really like that addition because you can't do any shenanigans with clouds or any BS where you're revolutioning Yavin 4 locations and not using the objective for what it's meant for, which is meant for blowing up the stupid Death Star, which is one of the coolest things you can do in the game. This is why it's not higher on the list. While this side up, you generate no more than 1 force from each Yavin 4 site. Why? Why are they nerfing this objective that barely even sees play as it is? And now you only get 1 force from each location. So now you're going to be completely struggling to generate any force, and which is completely handicapping yourself. So you're going to get 6 or 7 force, which is quite frankly not enough to generate what you need for this deck. Each Imperial is deploy +2 to Yavin 4, but they still can give you a beatdown. Some of those Yavin 4 locations are 2 for you, none for them. Force drain +1, and the War Room gives them a destiny. They can really beat you down on Yavin 4 if they come there, which makes this deck very dangerous to play, very risky. Flip this card if you control 3 Yavin sites. An opponent controls fewer than 3 Yavin sites. So you have to control 3 sites, but I guess you can control them for 1 turn. And then you consolidate them into 1 location like you do with Dantooine-based operations or something like Router Operations. But once you flip it, now the fun begins. Maybe you can flip it turn 1. I could see it turn 1 or 2 being flipped easily if you pull the location out. Flip it over, start generating more force on those Yavin 4 locations. Next thing you know, you're deploying the Death Star, because when this is side up, you may deploy the Death Star system without completing Death Star plans, and you can pull Rebel Techs, Death Star system, attack run, photon torpedoes. Destroying the Death Star takes so many things in the air. You're committing 20 cards to destroying the Death Star, which kind of is unfortunate because you have to have land, you have to have characters in your deck just to fight them so you can flip the objective. Now you have to have space, so it's kind of weak in land and in space, which can weaken the deck, is why you don't see it played very much. But it sets up everything so you can pull it out and destroy the Death Star, which is so much fun to do. So much fun to do. your total power is +3 in battles that system. That's super fun. So you're not super weak. I guess you're a little bit stronger. But if you destroy the Death Star, adds 3 to the force lost for each of opponent's Death Star sites. So if they're running any kind of Death Star sites at all, you basically win the game. Because if you remember, the Death Star location for the light side makes them lose +8 force when you destroy the Death Star. You lose 8 force, plus the opponent loses 2 force for every dark side icon they have on the Death Star, including the Death Star system. So if you have the light side Death Star out, you're automatically making them lose 12 force. And if they have any locations out at all, they're going to be losing 2 force for each icon they have, dark side icon, +3. So you could be easily up to 20, 25 force if they have 1 or 2 Death Star locations down, which is super cool. And if they don't have it down, the whole objective becomes a weaker Echo-based operations. Wherever you have a starfighter present with a pilot character aboard, force drains +2, which is good. It's not as good as Echo-based operations. Granted, it does the same thing as Echo-based operations, just a lot harder to do. It gives you a little more power in battle. Plus, you just don't get force drain +2. You have to have a pilot, so you probably want to run matching pilots with this deck. It's very hard to make these decks because there's so many cards you need. But it's so fun and satisfying if you can finally destroy the Death Star. I just want to make a Destroy the Death Star deck, 1 in a million, Masashi-based operations. That's why it gets number 8. Number 7, for the most fun to play, Carbon Chamber Testing. Here we go. Love the starting. Deploy Carbon Chamber, Carbon Council, Security Tower with Rebel. Opponent's choice, and it's in prison there. So you automatically pull one of their characters out of their deck, a rebel, and throw it into prison. If they're running if they're one of these minimalist hidden base decks that are only running 2 Obi with lightsabers and 2 Luke with lightsabers, and that's their whole ground crew, man, you can snag one of those bad boys and throw him in the prison right away. You're going to get something good because if they're playing a competitive deck, all their characters in their deck are probably going to be pretty powerful rebels. What I love about it, pull the Audience Chamber, pull Docking Bay 94, East Platform, every turn. You can't play Dark Deal. Sorry, you can't play Dark Deal. There's a different objective for that. Flip it if you move the Frozen Captain to the Audience Chamber, so you have to take the captive, freeze him, move him to the Audience Chamber. You can play this deck and not even flip it. I've seen it played where you just run bounty hunters and capture their opponents. I've seen it with just running straight Imperials. It's just a way to get locations out and to steal a rebel right away. But if you want to freeze their rebel, bam, it's kind of hard to do. The rules are kind of complicated, but once you freeze them, then the fun begins. You freeze them, they lose all that force from making them frozen. You move it, and every turn you're retrieving 1 force, and Scum and Villainy is immune to alter, and you just hang out. I've seen it where you can freeze 2 or 3 characters if you want. There's a couple ways to freeze characters with all too easy, or you just use the controls and use the old-fashioned way. There's many things you can do with this deck. It has a lot of versatility. You're not really forced to go a certain strat. You don't have to flip it. You can flip it, but when you do flip it, you freeze their character, you bring them to the Audience Chamber, and you relive those movie moments. It'd be even cooler if you could somehow freeze Han. That's the dream, because if you freeze one of them, there's so many effects and different interrupts you can play that make them just lose so much force. My favorite decoration, Carbon Chamber Testing, number 6. All right, number 5. My favorite bounty hunter objective, number 5, Court of the Vile Gangster. I like it better than Carbon Chamber Testing if I'm going bounty hunters. I like it better than This Deal Is Getting Worse All the Time if I'm going bounty hunters, because this one doesn't force you to have all these extra cards. Like Carbon Chamber Testing, you have to have Carbon Chamber cards. This Deal's Getting Worse All the Time, you have to have space. You have to have space, and you have to have best spin location, and you have to have maybe some cloud cards. No, this is straight up, we're going to go gangster. We're going to have everybody be mass captured. It's insane. You're going to go straight bounty hunters, deploy Audience Chamber, pit a Carcoon, dungeon, and you get to choose. Do you want to have your bounty hunters feed them to the Sarlacc, or do you want to have them feed them to the Rancor? You get to choose. Every turn, the player loses 1 force at the end of their deploy phase unless that player has a character on Tatooine, which is super cool. It's kind of like Hunt Down and Destroy the Jedi, but a little more fun, a little more balanced than the silliness that is Hunt Down. You lose 1 force, so it forces people to come there, or else they're just going to be slowly whittled away all game. Bounty hunters forfeit +2, which is so needed because all those bounty hunters deploy for 4, forfeit 3. Just devastating. Just so crappy. But this makes them better. Forfeit 5, forfeit 6. I mean, your Boba Fett's going to be Boba Fett. There you go. Here we go with the comments. He's going to be forfeit 8. You're going to have some really powerful bounty hunters. This is where Jodo Cass comes in. Playing all wrapped up is essential. Flip this card if you have 2 captives or 1 captive ability plus 2, greater than 2, and then you flip it, and the next thing you know is this is where the fun begins. You get the Sarlacc, Rancor Pit, all from reserve deck. Trapdoor, you don't have to draw Destiny to see if you hit with Trapdoor. They're just falling into the pit, and we know how creatures work because we already went over this. The Rancor is going to immediately attack it during the attack phase and absolutely destroy a one-on-one character, almost certainly, unless they draw humongous Destiny and you draw 0. That Rancor or Sarlacc is going to eat anything. Opponent loses force equal to the forfeit value of each opponent's characters eaten by the Sarlacc or Rancor. Out of play and placed out of play. It's like Danique Jericho, but even cooler. Losing tons of force. You can retrieve. You could even play bounties with this deck. You can do a lot of things with this deck. I shall enjoy watching you die. Great picture job on it. Love that one. I think that's why it gets number 6. That was number 6. Number 5. And now we're getting into the light side objectives. There's 5 of each I have on the list. 5 light, 5 dark. But if you've noticed, I've already went through 4 of the dark. So we only have 5 left and 4 are light side. I just feel like light side has a lot of really cool thematic objectives that are super fun to play. You really reenact the movie. Not to say you don't reenact the movie with carbon chamber testing, but Endor occupation, deal getting worse all the time, aren't as iconic as, like, you can either profit by this. Number 5, it's like deploy Jabba's palace, audience chamber, and then you put Han there frozen. Bam, he's frozen right off the back. Opponent starts out with 2 aliens at the audience chamber. It's almost a bait. It's like, here, have 2 aliens at the audience chamber. I'm coming with my mains and toys to rip their heads off and destroy you. I played against Prophet many times, and I don't even deploy the aliens because sometimes it's just a lost cause because they're going to come so hard at you at Tatooine, and if you don't have a huge force to take on their mains and toys, you're going to be in trouble. So you can't force drain while this is side up. They don't lose any force from your force drains at Tatooine locations. R2-D2 Luke and C-3PO deploy -2 to Jabba's palace. Master Luke is insanely good in this deck because he deploys for free. Flip this card if Han's not a captive. So as soon as you control the audience chamber, you release Han, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, bam, retrieve 5 force or 10 force if Han is less than power 4, which I've seen Han with heavy blaster pistol ran, and I've seen a Han with a power 3, and I've seen Han with a power 2 ran. I can't remember the reason why you run the really weak Han. Somebody has to explain it to me. But I've seen them all ran, but a lot of the times you don't even need the 10 force retrieval because they're flipping the objective turn 2 or 3, and they only have a few lost cards, so they just might as well start with Han with heavy blaster pistol. And they're adding they're adding a Destiny with Luke and all this crap already. Win this side up, cancels game text, a bad feeling have I. Unpiloted starfighters may deploy to exterior Tatooine sites. That's not that big of a deal. During your control phase, opponent loses 1 force for each battleground location occupied Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, or Lando. Well, good thing that's every light side deck ever used, so everybody's just playing the mains, and it turns into a Tatooine occupation, but you don't have to control the system. It turns into a monster where you can't cancel it, you can't reduce this force loss. It's not like Imperial Decree stops this force loss. You're just losing an extra force every time you occupy. So it's not enough that you're fighting them. You have to literally kill Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, and Lando and get them off Tatooine, or else you're going to lose a ton of force. Super, super strong objective. Probably a little bit too good. 10 force is really excessive, considering you only retrieve 10 force after you train Luke with the objective. It's not really on the same level. Releasing Han in 1 or 2 turns is not the same as training Luke. But still, really love the objective. I love the picture. I love Luke's face. And I love the exploding Jabba's pleasure barge. Number 4, and really thematic, it's Rescue the Princess. Got that awesome picture of Vader. Yes, you have Leia imprisoned at the Death Star. You deploy Detention Block Order, Docking Bay 327, Docking Bay, Yavin 4 War Room. So you're generating a fair amount of force. They're generating a fair amount of force from this, which is one downside. You're giving them a lot of force. And it kind of stinks because you can't deploy spies, 8D8, Revolution, Death Star plans, detention block control room to the Death Star. So you have to release your prisoners in using an interrupt. Because if you just control the site where Leia's at, the prison, you don't get to release the prisoners. You have to have a special interrupt. Or the detention block control room, which says release all prisoners on the Death Star. But for some reason, they don't let you play that crappy location with this. They could have included it and it'd be fine. So you pretty much have to use 8D8 or an interrupt, which is kind of exhausting. I really think it's another one of those Star Wars CCG things where it's just an extra rule that's not needed. Like, if you control the location, just release the prisoners. Don't have some special rule set for prisoners and releasing and all this garbage. But anyway, I digress. Once you release Leia, the fun really begins because, whoops, I dropped the card. Here we go. The fun really begins because opponents' force drains must use one force to initiate a force drain. Not that big of a deal. Sometimes I even amaze myself. During battles, unique characters are placed out of play when they're destroyed. Emperor, Vader, Tarkin. Anytime you're killing any one of these guys, they're gone for good, especially Vader. This deck can be really good against Hunt Down. You can flip this bad boy and you can pile on Vader, kill him once, and the game is over. Attrition against opponent is +2, which is nice. Dark Jedi lose all immunity to attrition, so you can just pile on him, draw one destiny, and Vader dies. I like it. It's not super hard to flip, and it really gives you a lot of freedom to like what you want to do with the deck afterwards. You could go space, you could go ground, you could go mains and toys, you could I've even seen a lot of aliens run with this. Like the picture of Leia. Who can't forget that scene? Solid number 4. Number 3, Rebel Strike Team, the Endor objective for the light side. I like it better than the dark side. Not saying the dark side one is bad. It's really cool too. But anywhere where you blow up something or have to do something really cool or thematic, just count me in. Rebel Strike Team. I really wish they had a destroy the main power generators objective in special edition or something. That's a missed opportunity. But that's neither here nor there. Rebel Strike Team. Deploy Endor system, Rebel landing site. When this side up, opponent loses no more than one force from each of your force drains on Endor. That's super cool. I like it when objectives say, hey, calm down. You can only force drain for one at each of your Endor locations. So if you're trying to do some stupid gimmick like deploy clouds or trying to do some revolution thing and not actually going with the theme of the objective, it's like, no, we're not going to allow that. You only can drain for one. I'm sorry. Once during each of your deploy phases, may use 2 force to take bunker or deactivate the shield generators into hand. This from reserve deck. Use 2 force. It should be free, to be honest. That hurts this objective a lot. You don't want to be spending 2 force to take the bunker or deactivate the shield generator into your hand when every other freaking objective lets you pull out locations for free and the effects you need and the devices and all this crap you need. It lets you pull it for free. Kind of annoying. Flip this card if bunker blown away during your move phase or control 3 exterior sites with 2 rebel scouts each. So you'd have to have 6 rebel scouts, which is doable. Could be easier than blowing away the bunker, but when you blow away the bunker, they lose a bunch of force, which is super nice. So you have 2 ways to do this objective, which is really cool. There's 2 ways of going at this. When you flip it, garrison destroyed. What a cool picture. Probably the coolest picture from the Endor ground battle, honestly. While this side up at each of your Endor sites where you have a rebel scout, force drains may not be modified or canceled by opponent. Ooh, I love that. Except by react. I love that. Rebel scouts are immune to less than 4 attrition. So it's a little better than the dark side where it said only less than 3 for the ATSTs. Once during each of your draw phases, retrieve 1 rebel scout of ability less than 3. Ooh, retrieving every turn. Epic event destiny draws are +2. Flip this card unless bunker blown away. So you can actually get the scouts out, flip it, and then destroy the bunker easily. Or you can do it any order you want. It's just super, super cool because if during opponent's move phase, opponent controls 3 exterior Endor sites or Endor system. So if they control the Endor system, you gotta destroy the bunker, or else you're never gonna get a drain off for more than 1, which forces you to destroy that bunker. And when you do, what do they lose? 8 force. Awesome objective. Very thematic. Number 2, we have arguably the most convoluted, the most difficult, the most confusing objective of all time. I know people who don't even play it because there's so many rules and things you got to do, and it's so confusing. How does this work? How does that work? Mind what you have learned. Training Luke or Leia into a Jedi. Mind what you learned. Deploy the Dagobah system. You have to have so many cards to pull this off. Win this side up. Deploy phase. Deploy Luke, Yoda, Yoda's Hope, At Peace, Luke's Backpacks, 2 Dagobah from reserve deck, and you can pull those all in one turn. And then the Dagobah system pulls out a Dagobah location. And then one of the Dagobah training grounds pulls out a Jedi training test every turn. So you're pulling things constantly. Your hand gets humongous right away. And you need 20, 25 cards just to train Luke, maybe even more. And you take so many turns. I've had complete blowouts with this deck where you just get completely crushed. They take a ship. They land Vader. They land some bounty hunters down on Dagobah with a ship, with one of those bounty hunter ships, and they just destroy you. Or you're playing against a slower dark side deck and you manage to train Luke all the way. Then the real fun begins. Then the real magic begins. First of all, you retrieve 10 force, which is great because you're going to be losing a lot of force just before you flip this deck. I'm not going to go into all the Jedi training. BoardMatt, great YouTuber, has a really thorough. Him and Andy Talaga have a great video going into the details of making a Mind What You Can Learn, Save It You Can deck. I'll link it below. Win this side up. During your move phase, may use 3 force to take Luke into hand, so you can take Luke into hand. And then, all at once, Jedi test number 5 lets you pull that destiny over and over and over. So every destiny, you're getting the 0 and 7 from R2 and Red 5. So every single destiny is a 7. And you just absolutely smash them. If they let you get to Jedi test 5, it is almost impossible to stop them after this. Plus, you retrieve 10 force. Plus, it's thematic as hell. You trained him. And now after you train Luke, he comes back like the god he is, and he comes down there and he absolutely obliterates everything. You throw Luke down there. You throw Han with heavy blaster pistol. I think I've said Han with heavy blaster pistol 20 times in this video. And you're drawing 2, 3 destiny, and the destinies are 21 total. Luke is hitting with his lightsaber on everything. And you can train Leia with it. You can train Luke with it. Whatever you prefer. Both have their pros and cons. But yes, learning about training is so convoluted. You have to put Yoda. You have to put Yoda's backpack on Luke. You have to put Yoda inside the backpack. And then you got to trace around there's one of the Jedi training tests that move around. And you got to space your locations just right. And you got to put 4 or 5 Dagobah locations. And it's just making me confused thinking about it. But it's such a fun objective to play if you can pull it off. It really is fun. It really is fun. You know what time it is. It's time for number 1. You know what it is. The most fun objective to flip. Set your course for Alderaan and destroy that stupid planet full of wieners. Just destroy it. Coolest one. I know we had 4 light side objectives in a row, but the King Daddy, the most thematic thing you can do is blow up shit with the Death Star. Deploy Death Star, Alderaan system, docking bay 327. I like this objective better than the light side. Destroy the Death Star, Masasi base operations. They are super fun to fight against each other if you have pre-constructed decks and you just want to have 2 decks to play with you and your kids or you and your friends. Those are 2 super cool ideas to have them fighting against each other. But this is so fun to do because it's not as difficult to pull off as the Masasi base operations, I would say, and doesn't take as many cards. This is cool. Revolution is canceled. That's great. Commence primary ignition. May only target Alderaan, Yavin 4, Hoth, and a subjugated planet. This is my least favorite thing about this objective is you cannot target anything but those 3 planets, maybe 4 planets. I think once you destroy Alderaan and Yavin 4, the Death Star, you can do whatever you want with it. Because by the time you do those things, it's going to be turn 7 or 8. And if they haven't stopped you yet, I think it's fair game to destroy Tatooine, destroy Dagobah, whatever you want to do. I've tried to make destroy planet decks without this objective. It's almost impossible because you pretty much have to devote every card to destroying planets, and they can just come to the Death Star and absolutely wipe you out. Why this objective is great, they can't really fight you on the Death Star. You can't force drain on the Death Star, but you don't get any battle damage against you. That does not mean attrition. So they can still make you lose cards because of attrition. So you still lose characters, but for them to go to the Death Star, they can't force train you there, and they can't really make you lose battle damage. So it's kind of pointless for them to come kill your gunners, only if they want to stop you destroying Alderaan. So you get the gunners out, and once you do it and you destroy Alderaan, you flip this bad boy, and wow, you finally done it. You finally destroyed a planet. You go from Alderaan to Yavin 4 to Hoth. Make them lose a bunch of force. You can make them lose 4-8 force if you want. If they have any locations out, they're going to be losing a lot more. During your deploy phase, deploys a battleground system from reserve deck. Besides that, the commander from Death Star 2, really the only other way for the dark side to pull battleground systems. That's a shame. I wish there was more ways to pull out systems for the light and dark side besides just hidden base and this objective. You know, your Star Destroyers deploy -2, so it makes Star Destroyers more strong. It's one of those objectives that if you flip it, it's super cool, but you can still lose the game if you flip it because it doesn't ensure a victory. They just lose a few force, but it's so cool to destroy planets. 3 force, and if you destroy Yavin 4, you can really make them lose a lot of force, only if they're playing Yavin 4 sites. So, love destroying the Death Star. A few, I know you're going to say, where was Hidden Base? Where was Hunt Down? Where was Bring Him Before Me? All those are cool. Where was Dantooine and Raltar Ops and all that crap? Those are cool, but flipping them does not feel that great. I mean, you're just doing the routine thing. These objectives, this order is what I felt were the most fun to flip and to pull off, and destroying a planet is about as fun as it gets. Tell me what you think. That's a list. You know what we want to do now? Should we roast a random card, or should we draw? Let's draw the starter deck winner. Who's the big starter deck winner this week? 65 unique comments, 66 unique comments. Vivictus, you're the one, you're the chosen one of the comments. Surprise, Docking Control Room 327 didn't get a mention, although it was from the 2-player introductory game. One of the better ways of pulling locations, I'm assuming you're going to say. It is a great way to pull location. It's from the 2-player starter set. It's basically the only way to pull a location from your reserve deck until you get to Jabba's Palace for the dark side. Light side being Dagobah to pull locations from the Dagobah system. It is a great location, and I've seen actually for a few Premier-only decks, Premier New Hope decks, use it as their starting location. That being said, it is Force Drain +2 for the light side. So if you don't control that thing, it's a punishing 3 Force Drain. Plus, you only get 1 force at the location. It's a real double-edged sword. And guess what? You won the starter deck, and screw it. We're going to draw. Let's pick another winner. Let's have 2 winners. This is the 9th episode. Who is the big winner? Jonathan. Jonathan loved the non-unique sites and making crazy systems work into decks. So cool. You can make any system just have a whole battle and a whole story. Dantooine-based ops and Raltar ops are one I currently use. Sorry I can't see the rest of the comment, but thank you so much, Jonathan, and the other guy. I forgot his name. Johnny Boy, you're the big winner, and Vivictus Joe. Johnny Boy? No, that's Danny Boy. Close enough. Johnny, Vivictus, you win the starter deck. You both won, so you got to split it. Somebody gets the light card, somebody gets the dark card. So I'll open it up, and then I'll send you whatever I open. I'm sorry if you don't get, just kidding, you both get it. You'll both get one. You both just happen to get a Han Seeker, a Luke Seeker, and assault rifle. What are those? Is Luke Seeker, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. What would be the worst pack you could open? All uncommon 2s, and then you get Utini. Anyway, let's do the roast a random card section. If you're not familiar, we randomly pick a card, and we make fun of it. Our favorite time of the week, roast a random card, 2,094 cards, roughly, give or take, 133. We're going to be in Premiere, aren't we? We're going to be right in the beginning of, maybe we'll get a main character, 133. We're at Lars Moisture Farm. I was just raving about how I love Lars Moisture Farm. Is it light or dark? It doesn't matter. It is the dark side. And I love that card. Great site. It was almost my favorite premier location. That's why we're going to re-roll 15555. 1555. This is going to be what? Death Star 2? Now this is going to be stinky. I have a feeling 1555 is going to be a stinker. Imperial ATST pilot. Easily roasted. ATST pilot. Look at that. Look at that helmet. Look at those goggles. He's like a skier from 1990. He looks like he's going to the slopes. Okay. Due to unstable control characteristics of the ATSTs, only the most talented recruits are assigned to them. Why would the ATSTs have unstable controls? They are, if you think about an ATST, they're like the silliest design thing ever. But that's neither here nor there. Power 1, ability 2. 2 to the power of any combat vehicle he pilots. When piloting an ATST in battle, adds 1 to his forfeit, draws 1 destiny and not able to otherwise, and adds 1 to attrition against opponent. Deploy for 2. He should deploy for 1. You know, he's better than the AT pilot. You know, they came a long way. They made his destiny 3. Let's just compare him to the AT pilot. AT driver. Yeah, the AT driver is so unbelievably bad that it's Destiny 1, Power 1, Ability 1, Deploy for 2. 2 to the power of any combat vehicle, 3 if an AT. That card is unusable. That is such a cool picture too. They could have had, this could have been Power 2, Ability 2, adds 3 to the AT, adds a Destiny to power, Destiny 3, just made it cool. You know, the AT pilot's a step up, but still pretty unusable. It's a cool card. He doesn't have as cool a costume as the AT driver, but the ATST pilot, the Destiny 3 makes up for it, 3 forfeit, and cumulatively adds 1 to attrition, so it's not too bad. It's been roasted. That's all, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Season 2, Episode 10 comes out next week. Season finale. Oh, it's going to be good. A little bit different next week. A little more informative. A little bit different pace than we have done before, but it'll be a good way to end the season. Wow, that went fast. That went fast. That was fun. I really appreciate all the comments. We had so many great, really thorough comments. I love it when people tell stories about the past tournaments from 20 years ago, or new tournaments, or teaching their kids, or they're just learning the game themselves for the first time, or they're pulling out their collection, or they're teaching their friends about it. So many cool stories, so many crazy things I've learned. I've learned so much about Star Wars CCG just in the last few months, just from the comments. It's super cool. Keep them coming. I really appreciate it. And peace, guys. See you next week.